plan for this one is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. It's gonna be live.
In a world where chaos reigns and connections seem fleeting, one visionary endeavor seeks to bring us all together, then create a world after dark. Harnessing the transformative power of artificial intelligence, the timeless charm of radio theater, the wisdom of books, and the excitement of video games. Zoom Theater Live After Dark illuminates the path to enlightenment and fosters a sense of unity among its audience. Create this unique fusion of storytelling and interactive experiences. We aim to nurture personal growth, improve learning, and inspire a peaceful existence. Guided by your obedient servant, Sebastian Saint Serapian Smalls, we embark on a journey of self-discovery. But where do we begin? Begin by simply listening, slow down, see just how peaceful today can be. Together, we shall create a harmonious community, bound by shared passions and a desire to elevate the human experience. Sebastian Saint Serapian Smalls will be there, to the end of the line, my Valentine, guiding you on this journey towards a more serene and enlightened tomorrow. Catch you guys on the flip side.
Begin by simply listening, slow down, see just how peaceful today can be. Greetings, children. It is I, your obedient servant, Sebastian Saint Smalls. The plan for this one is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, read by the San Diego Library lady. Thanks so much for swinging by. Don't panic, mes amis, it's a fait accompli.
We are now starting a brand new book, and today's book that we're going to be reading for the next 2 months and change will be The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. It is an acclaimed, noted story. It is considered one of the most popular and gripping and just like captivating adventure novels of all time. It was originally published in France in between 1844 and 1846. It was serially published. So we're kind of continuing in that grand tradition of reading it chapter by chapter, little by little. That was actually how the readers would have gotten it themselves. They weren't able to stay all night binging it. They were themselves reading it little by little as each installment was published. And so we're going to get that experience again of reading this serial novel. The Count of Monte Cristo, for those of you who don't know it, I'm just going to give a little hint because I don't want to give any big spoilers. It's a story of adventure, of love, of honor, of hope, of revenge, of justice and injustice.
I'm here, Roman.
I need you. We're gonna destroy their whole nuclear program.
You know the risk. Trust me.
Please be safe, will you?
Okay.
My God.
Web source just came through. The CIA is targeting Iranian nuclear facilities.
Our cover's blood. We leave in 15 minutes.
Extraction point. There's an old CIA base in Kandahar province.
I just want to go home, and I'll be with you.
The distance is not the main issue. It's what's in between. Any of them catch my guy, we'll sell him to the highest bidder.
There will be no sanctuary for you.
Raise your hands. Do it before they get trigger happy.
I'm not a spy.
We need names.
We didn't get any. Please believe me.
Tell me what's truly going on. We're cutouts in an even bigger game. This is my life in your hands. No one is coming to rescue us. I'm sorry. For everything. Get down!
The thing that's different about a Verbo vacation home, you always have the whole place to yourself. No stranger at the dinner table making things awkward, or in another room taking up space. It's just you and your people. Because why would you ever share your vacation home with someone you wouldn't share your vacation with?
That's delicious. Has that nice vanilla scent to it.
That was kind of a
good.
mean
Alright, so
commercial.
I'm still getting a feel for how long each of our chapters are gonna be. I think we're gonna start off by reading 2 chapters today. And so we'll go ahead and let the excitement begin. We're gonna start reading The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Alright, and for this book the chapters do have names. So we'll start that. And again, one more time, apologies in advance for the many, many instances in which I'm going to have terribly sad attempts at French accents. I'll do my best. I enjoy doing the French words. But yeah, it's mainly going to be a very California version of French. So, alright, chapter 1, The Arrival at Marseille. On the 24th of February, 1815, the lookout of Notre Dame de la Garde signaled the three-master, the Pharaon, from Smyrna, Trieste, and Naples. As usual, a pilot put off immediately, and rounding the Chateau d'If, got on board the vessel between Cape Morgion and the Ile de Rion. Immediately, and according to custom, the platform of Fort Saint-Jean was covered with spectators. It is always an event at Marseille for a ship to come into port, especially when this ship, like the Pharaon, had been built, rigged, and laden on the stocks of the old Fosse, and belonged to an owner of the city. The ship sailed on. It had faintly passed the strait which some volcanic shock has made between the Ile of Calasrain and the Ile of Aros, had cleared the island of Pomègue, and approached the harbor under topsails, jibs, and foresail, but so slowly and sedately that the idlers, with that instinct which misfortune sends before it, asked one another what misfortune could have happened on board. However, those experienced in navigation saw plainly that if any accident had occurred, it was not to the vessel herself, for she bore down with all the evidence of being skillfully handled, anchor ready to be dropped, the bowsprit shrouds loose, and beside the pilot, who was stealing the Pharaon into the narrow entrance of the port of Marseille, was a young man who, with an active and vigilant eye, watched every motion of the ship and repeated each direction of the pilot. The vague disquietude which prevailed amongst the spectators had so much affected one of the crowd that he did not await the arrival of the vessel in harbor, but, leaping into a small skiff, desired to be pulled alongside the Pharaon, which he reached as she rounded the creek of La Reserve. When the young man on board saw this individual approach, he left his station by the pilot and came, hat in hand, to the side of the ship's bulwarks. He was a fine, tall, slim young fellow, with black eyes and hair as dark as the raven's wing, and his whole appearance bespoke that calmness and resolution peculiar to men accustomed from their cradle to contend with danger. "Ah, is that you, Dantes?" cried the man in the skiff. "What's the matter? Why is there such an air of tragedy aboard?" "A great misfortune, Monsieur Morel," replied the young man. "A great misfortune, for me especially. Off Civita Vecchia, we lost our brave Captain Leclerc." "And the cargo?" inquired the owner anxiously. "Is all safe, Monsieur Morel, and I think you will be satisfied on that head. But poor Captain Leclerc." "What happened to him?" asked the owner, with an air of considerable resignation. "What happened to the worthy captain?" "He died." "Fell into the sea?" "No, sir. He died of brain fever in dreadful agony." Then turning to the crew, he said, "Look out there! All ready to drop anchor!" The hands obeyed. At the same moment, the 8 or 10 seamen who proposed to the crew sprang, some to the main sheets, others to the braces, others to the halyards, others to the jib ropes, and others to the topsail brails. The young sailor gave a look to see that his orders were promptly and accurately obeyed, and then turned again to the owner. "And how did this misfortune occur?" he inquired, resuming the inquiry suspended for a moment. "Alas, sir, in the most unexpected manner. After a long conversation with the harbor master, Captain Leclerc left Naples greatly disturbed in his mind. At the end of 24 hours, he was attacked by a fever, and died 3 days afterwards. He performed the usual burial service, and he is at rest, sewn up in his hammock, with 2 cannonballs of 36 pounds each, at his head and heels, off the island of El Giglio. We bring to his widow her sword and cross of honor. It was worthwhile, truly," added the young man of the place, "to make war against the English for 10 years, and to die in his bed at last, like everybody else." "Ah, Edmund," cried the owner, who appeared more comforted at every moment, "we are all mortal. The old must make way for the young. If not, why there would be no promotion. And as you have assured me that the cargo is all safe and sound, Monsieur Morel, take my word for it, and I advise you not to take less than 1,000 louis for the profits of the voyage."
How do we still know so little about the ocean?
How does she still have cable when Hulu Plus Live TV has over 85 live channels, plus access to Disney Plus and ESPN Plus?
Switch to Hulu Plus Live TV. It makes sense. You guys talking about me?
Then, as they were just passing the round tower, the young man shouted out, "Ready there, to lower topsails, foresail, and jib." The order was executed as promptly as if on board a man of war. "Let go, and brail all." At this last word, all the sails were lowered, and the bark moved almost imperceptibly onwards. "Now, if you will come on board, Monsieur Morel," said Dantes, observing the owner's impatience, "here is your supercargo. Monsieur Danglars, coming out of his cabin, will furnish you with every particular. As for me, I must look after the anchoring and dress the ship in mourning." The owner did not wait to be twice invited. He seized a rope which Dantes flung to him, and with an activity that would have done credit to a sailor, climbed up the side of the ship, whilst the young man, going to his task, left the conversation to the individual whom he had announced under the name of Danglars, who now came towards the owner. He was a man of 25 or 26 years of age, of unprepossessing countenance, obsequious to his superiors, insolent to his inferiors. And then, besides his position as responsible agent on board, which is always obnoxious to the sailors, he was as much disliked by the crew as Edmond Dantès was beloved by them. Well, Monsieur Morel, said Danglars, you have heard of the misfortune which has befallen us? Yes, poor Captain Leclerc. He was a brave and an honest man, and a first-rate seaman, grown old between sky and ocean, as should a man charged with the interests of a house so important as that of Morel and Son, replied Danglars. But, replied the owner, following with one eye on Dantès, who was watching the anchoring of the vessel, it seems to me that a sailor needs not be so old as you say, Danglars, to understand his business. For our friend Edmund seems to understand it thoroughly, and not to require instruction from anyone. Yes, said Danglars, casting toward Edmund a look in which a feeling of envy was strongly visible. Yes, he is young, and youth is invariably self-confident. Scarcely was the captain's breath out of his body than he assumed the command without consulting anyone, and he caused us to lose a day and a half at the Isle of Elba instead of making for Marseille direct. As to taking the command of the vessel, replied Morel, that was his duty as captain's mate. As to losing a day and a half off the Isle of Elba, he was wrong, unless the ship wanted some repair. The ship is as well as I am, and as I hope you are, Monsieur Morel, and this day and a half was lost from pure whim for the pleasure of going ashore and nothing else. Dantès, said the ship owner, turning towards the young man, come this way. In a moment, sir, answered Dantès, and I'm with you. Then calling to the crew, he said, let go. The anchor was instantly dropped, and the chain ran rattling through the porthole. Dantès continued in his course in spite of the presence of the pilot until this maneuver was completed, and then he added, lower the pennies half-mast high, put the ensign in a weft, and slope the yards. You see, said Danglars, he fancies himself captain already, upon my word. And so, in fact, he is, except for your signature and your partner's, Monsieur Morel. And why should he not have it? Said the owner. He is young, it is true, but he seems to me a thorough seaman and of full experience. A cloud passed over Danglars' brow. Your pardon, Mr. Morel, said Dantès, approaching. The ship now rides at anchor, and I am at your service. You hailed me, I think? Danglars retreated a step or two. I wish to inquire why you stopped at the Isle of Elba. I do not know, sir. It was to fulfill a last instruction of Captain Leclerc, who, when dying, gave me a packet for the Marshal Bertrand. Did you see him, Edmond? Who? The Marshal? Yes. Morel looked around him, and then, drawing Dantès on one side, he said suddenly, and how is the Emperor? Very well, as far as I could judge from my eyes. You saw the Emperor, then? He entered the Marshal's apartment whilst I was there. And you spoke to him? Why, it was he who spoke to me, sir, said Dantès with a smile. And what did he say to you? He asked me questions about the ship, the time it left Marseille, the course she had taken and what was her cargo. I believe if she had not been laden and I had been master, he would have bought her. But I told him I was only mate and that she belonged to the firm of Morel and Son. Ah, he said, I know them. The Morels have been ship owners from father to son, and there was a Morel who served in the same regiment with me when I was in garrison at Valence. Pardieu! And that is true, cried the owner, greatly delighted. And that was Policar Morel, my uncle, who was afterwards a captain. Dantès, you must tell my uncle that the Emperor remembered him, and you will see it bring tears to the old soldier's eyes. Come, continued he, patting Edmund's shoulder kindly. You did very right, Dantès, to follow Captain Leclerc's instruction and call at the Isle of Elba, although, if it were known that you had conveyed a packet to the Marshal and had conversed with the Emperor, it might get you into trouble. How could that get me into trouble, sir? Asked Dantes, for I did not even know of what I was the bearer, and the Emperor merely made such inquiries as he would of the first comer. But your pardon, here are the officers of health and the customs coming alongside, said the young man, and the young man went to the gangway. As he departed, Danglars approached and said, well, it appears that he has given you satisfactory reasons for his landing at Porto Ferrajo? Yes, most satisfactory, my dear Danglars. Well, so much the better, said the supercargo, for it is always painful to see a comrade who does not do his duty. Dantes has done his, replied the owner, and that is not saying much. It was Captain Leclerc who gave orders for this delay. Speaking of Captain Leclerc, has not Dantes given you a letter from him? To me? No. Was there one? I believe that, besides the packet, Captain Leclerc had confided a letter to his care. Of what packet are you speaking, Danglars? Why, what Dantes left at Porto Ferrajo. How do you know he had a packet to leave at Porto Ferrajo? Danglars turned very red. I was passing close to the door of the captain's cabin, which was half open, and I saw him give the packet and letter to Dantes. He did not speak to me of it, replied the shipowner, but if there be any letter, he will give it to me. Danglars reflected for a moment. Then, Monsieur Morel, I beg of you, said he, not to say a word to Dantes on the subject. I may have been mistaken. At this moment the young man returned, and Danglars retreated as before. Well, my dear Dantes, are you now free? Inquired the owner. Yes, sir. You have not been long detained? No. I gave the custom house officers a copy of our bill of lading. As to the other papers, they sent a man off with the pilot to whom I gave them. Then you have nothing more to do here? No, all is arranged now. And then you can come and dine with me. Excuse me, Monsieur Morel. Excuse me, if you please. But my first visit is due to my father, though I am not the less grateful for the honor you have done me. Right, Dantes. Quite right. I always knew you were a good son. And, inquired Dantes with some hesitation, do you know how my father is? Well, I believe, my dear Edmund, though I have not seen him lately. Yes, he likes to keep himself shut up in his little room. That proves at least that he is wanted for nothing during your absence. Dantes smiled. My father is proud, sir, and if he had not money enough for a meal left, I doubt if he would have asked anything from anyone, except God. Well then, after this first visit has been made, we rely on you. I must again excuse myself, Monsieur Morel, for after this first visit has been paid, I have another, which I am most anxious to pay. True, Dantes. I forgot that there was at the Catalan someone who expects you no less impatiently than your father, the lovely Mercedes. Dantes blushed. Said the shipowner, that does not astonish me, for she has been to me 3 times, inquiring if there were any news of the Pharaon. Hester. Edmund, you have a very handsome mistress. She is not my mistress, replied the young sailor gravely. She is my betrothed. Sometimes one and the same thing, said Morel with a smile. Not with us, sir, replied Dantes. Well, well, my dear Edmund, continued the owner, do not let me detain you. You have managed my affairs so well that I ought to allow you all the time you require for your own. Do you want any money? No, sir. I have all my pay to take, nearly 3 months' wages. You are a careful fellow, Edmund. Say I have a poor father, sir. Yes, yes. I know how good a son you are. So now, just away to see your father. I have a son, too, and I should be very angry with those who detained him from me after a 3 months' voyage. Then I have your leave, sir? Yes, if you have nothing more to say to me. Nothing. Captain Leclerc did not, before he died, give you a letter for me? He was unable to write, sir, but that reminds me that I must ask your leave of absence for some days. To get married? Yes, first, and then to go to Paris. Very good. Have what time you require, Dantes. It will take quite 6 weeks to unload the cargo, and we cannot get you ready for sea until 3 months after that. Only be back again in 3 months, for the Pharaon, added the owner, patting the young sailor on the back, cannot sail without her captain. Without her captain? Cried Dantes, his eyes sparkling with animation. Pray mind what you say, for you are touching on the most secret wishes of my heart. Is it really your intention to appoint me captain of the Pharaon? If I were sole owner, I would appoint you this moment, my dear Dantes, and say it is settled. But I have a partner, and you know the Italian proverb. Che compagno a padrone. He who has a partner has a master. But the thing is at least half done, since you have 1 out of 2 voices. Rely on me to procure you the other. I will do my best. Monsieur Morel, exclaimed the young seaman, with tears in his eyes and grasping the owner's hand. Monsieur Morel, I thank you in the name of my father and of Mercedes. Good, good, Edmund. There is a sweet little cherub that sits up aloft that keeps a good watch for good fellows. Go to your father, go and see Mercedes, and come to me afterwards. Shall I row you ashore? No, I thank you. I shall remain and look over the accounts of Danglars. Have you been satisfied with him this voyage? That is according to the sense you attach to the question, sir. Do you mean is he a good comrade? No, for I think he never liked me since the day when I was silly enough, after a little quarrel we had, to propose to him to stop for 10 minutes at the Ile of Monte Cristo to settle the dispute. A proposition which I was wrong to suggest, and he quite right to refuse. If you mean as responsible agent that you ask me the question, I believe there is nothing to say against him, and that you will be content with the way in which he has performed his duty. But tell me, Dantes, if you had the command of the Pharaon, would you have pleasure in retaining Danglars? Captain or mate, Monsieur Morel, replied Dantes, I shall always have the greatest respect for those who possess our owner's confidence. Good, good. Dantes, I see you are a thorough good fellow, and will detain you no longer. Go, for I see how impatient you are. Then I have leave? Go, I tell you. May I have the use of your skiff? Certainly. Then for the present, Monsieur Morel, farewell, and 1,000 thanks. I hope soon to see you again, my dear Edmund. Good luck to you. The young sailor jumped into the skiff and sat down in the stern, desiring to be put ashore at the Canebière. The 2 rowers bent to their work, and the little boat glided away as rapidly as possible in the midst of the 1,000 vessels which choke up the narrow way which leads between the 2 rows of ships from the mouth of the harbor and the Quai d'Orly. The shipowner, smiling, followed him with his eyes until he saw him spring out on the quay and disappear into the midst of the throng which, from 5 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, choke up this famous street of La Canebière, of which the modern Seine are so proud, and say with all the gravity in the world, and with that accent which gives so much character to what is said, if Paris had La Canebière, Paris would be a second Marseille. On turning round, the owner saw Danglars behind him, who apparently attended to his orders, but in reality followed, as he did, the young sailor with his eyes. Only there was a great difference in the expression of the looks of the 2 men who thus watched the movements of Edmond Dantes. Chapter 2. Father and Son. We will leave Danglars struggling with the feelings of hatred and endeavoring to insinuate in the ear of the shipowner, Morel, some evil suspicions against his comrade, and follow Dantes, who, after having traversed the Canebière, took the Rue de Noailles, and entering into a small house situated on the left side of the Allée de Meilhan, rapidly ascended 4 flights of a dark staircase, holding the baluster in one hand, while with the other he repressed the beatings of his heart and paused before a half-open door which revealed all the interior of a small apartment. This apartment was occupied by Dantes's father. The news of the arrival of the Pharaon had not yet reached the old man, who, mounted on a chair, was amusing himself with staking some nasturtiums with tremulous hand, which, mingled with clematis, formed a kind of trellis at his window. Suddenly, he felt an arm thrown round his body, and a well-known voice behind him exclaimed, "Father! Dear father!" The old man uttered a cry, and turning round, and seeing his son, he fell into his arms, pale and trembling. "What ails you, my dearest father? Are you ill?" inquired the young man, much alarmed. "No, no, my dear Edmund. My boy, my son. No, but I did not expect you. Enjoy the surprise of seeing you so suddenly. It really seemed as if I were going to die. Come, come, cheer up, my dear father. It really is me. They say joy never hurts, and so I come to you without any warning. Come now, look cheerfully at me instead of gazing as you do with your eyes so wide. Here I am back again, and we will now be happy." "Yes, yes, my boy, so we will, replied the old man. "But how shall we be happy? Will you never leave me again? Come, tell me all the good fortune that has befallen you." "God forgive me," said the young man, "for rejoicing at happiness derived from the misery of others. But heaven knows I did not seek this good fortune. It has happened, and I really cannot pretend to be sorry. Good Captain Leclerc is dead, father, and it is probable that, with the aid of Monsieur Morel, I shall have his place. Do you understand, father? Only imagine me a captain at 20, with 100 louis pay, and a share in the profits. Is this not more than a poor sailor like me could have hoped for?" "Yes, my dear boy," replied the old man, "and much more than you could have expected." "Well then, with the first money I receive, I mean you to have a small house, with a garden to plant your clematis, your nasturtiums, and your honeysuckles." "But what ails you, father? Are not you well?" "'Tis nothing, nothing. It will soon pass away." And as he said so, the old man's strength failed him, and he fell backwards. "Come, come," said the young man. "A glass of wine, father, will revive you. Where do you keep your wine?" "No, no, thank ye. You need not look for it. I do not want it," said the old man. "Yes, yes, father, tell me where it is." And he opened 2 or 3 cupboards. "It is no use," said the old man. "There is no wine." "What? No wine?" said Dantes, turning pale, and looking alternately at the hollow cheeks of the old man and the empty cupboards. "What? No wine? Have you been short of money, father?" "I want for nothing now you are here," said the old man. "Yet," stammered Dantes, wiping the perspiration from his brow, "yet I gave you 200 francs when I left 3 months ago." "Yes, yes, that is true, but you forgot at that time a little debt to our neighbor, Caderousse. He reminded me of it, telling me that if I did not pay for you, he would be paid by Monsieur Morel. And so, you see, lest he might do you an injury, well, why, I paid him." "But," cried Dantes, "it was 140 francs I owed Caderousse." "Yes," stammered the old man. "And you paid him out of the 200 francs I left you?" The old man made a sign in the affirmative. "So that you have lived for 3 months on 60 francs?" muttered the young man. "You know how little I required," said the old man. "Heaven pardon me," cried Edmund, falling on his knees before the old man. "What are you doing?" "You have cut me to the heart." "Never mind it, for I see you once more," said the old man. "And now all is forgotten. All is well again." "Yes, here I am," said the young man, "with a happy prospect and a little money. Here, father, here," he said. Take it, and send for something immediately." And he emptied his pockets on the table, whose contents consisted of a dozen pieces of gold, 5 or 6 crowns, and some smaller coin. The countenance of old Dantes brightened. "Who does this belong to?" he inquired. "To me, to you, to us. Take it, buy some provisions, be happy, and tomorrow we shall have more." Gently, gently, said the old man with a smile, "and by your leave I will use your purse moderately, for they would say, if they saw me buy too many things at a time, that I had been obliged to await your return in order to be able to purchase them." Do as you please, but first of all, pray have a servant, Father. I will not have you left alone so long. I have some smuggled coffee and most capital tobacco in a small chest in the hold, which you shall have tomorrow. Oh, but hush, here comes somebody. 'Tis Catarus, who has heard of your arrival, and no doubt comes to congratulate you on your fortunate return. Ah, lips that say one thing, while the heart thinks another, murmured Edmund. But never mind, he is a neighbor who has done us a service on occasions, so he's welcome. As Edmund finished his sentence in a low voice, there appeared at the door the black and shocked head of Catarus. He was a man of 25 or 26 years of age and held in his hand a length of cloth, which, in his capacity as a tailor, he was about to turn into the lining of a coat. "What, is that you, Edmund? Return," said he, with a broad Marseille accent and a grin that displayed teeth as white as ivory. "Yes, as you see, neighbor Catarus, and ready to be agreeable to you in any and every way," replied Dantes, but ill concealing his feelings under this appearance of civility. "Thanks, thanks. But fortunately I do not want for anything, and it chances that at times there are others who have need of me." Dantes made a gesture. "I do not allude to you, my boy. No, no, I lent you money, and you returned it. That's like good neighbors, and we are quits." "We are never quits with those who oblige us," was Dantes' reply. "For when we do not owe them money, we owe them gratitude." "What's the use of mentioning that? What is done is done. Let us talk of your happy return, my boy. I've gone on the quay to find a match for a piece of mulberry cloth when I met friend Danglars. "What? You in Marseille?" "Yes," says he. "I thought you were in Smyrna." "I was, but am now back again." "And where is it, dear boy, our Edmund?" "Why, with his father, no doubt," replied Danglars. "And so I came," added Catarus, "as fast as I could to have the pleasure of shaking hands with a friend." "Worthy Catarus," said the old man, "he is so much attached to us." "Yes, to be sure I am. I love and esteem you, because honest folks are so rare. But it seems you have come back rich, my boy," continued the tailor, looking askance at the handful of gold and silver which Dantes had thrown on the table. The young man remarked the greedy glance which shone in the dark eyes of his neighbor. "Oh," he said negligently, "this money is not mine. I was expressing to my father my fears that he had wanted many things in my absence, and to convince me, he emptied his purse on the table. Come, father," added Dantes, "put this money back in your box. Unless neighbor Catarus wants anything, and in that case, it is at his service." "No, my boy, no," said Catarus. "I am not in any want, thank God. The state nourishes me. Keep your money. Keep it, I say. One never has too much. But at the same time, my boy, I am as much obliged by your offer as if I took advantage of it." "It was offered with goodwill," said Dantes. "No doubt, my boy, no doubt. Well, you stand well with Monsieur Morel, I hear, you insinuating dog, you." "Monsieur Morel has always been exceedingly kind to me," replied Dantes. "Then you were wrong to refuse to dine with him." "What? Did you refuse to dine with him?" said old Dantes. "And did he invite you to dine?" "Yes, father," replied Edmund, smiling at his father's astonishment at the excessive honor paid to his son. "And why did you refuse, son?" inquired the old man. "That I might the sooner see you again, father," replied the young man. "I was most anxious to see you." "But it must have vexed Monsieur Morel, good worthy man," said Catarus. "And while you are looking forward to being captain, it is wrong to annoy the owner." "But I explained to him the cause of my refusal," replied Dantes, "and I hope he fully understood it." "Yes, but to be captain, one must give way a little to the owners." "I hope to be captain without that," said Dantes. "So much the better, so much the better. Nothing will give greater pleasure to all your old friends, and I know one down there behind the citadel of St. Nicholas who will not be sorry to hear it." "Mercedes," said the old man.
Embrace fast heartburn relief with Tums.
"Yes, father, and with your permission, now I have seen you, and know you are well, and have all you require, I will ask your consent to go and pay a visit to the Catalans. Go, my dear boy, said old Dantes, and may heaven bless you and your wife as it has blessed me and my son. His wife, said Caderousse. Why, how fast you go on, Monsieur Dantes. She is not his wife yet, it appears. No, but according to all probability, she soon will be, replied Edmund. Yes, yes, said Caderousse. But you were right to return as soon as possible, my boy. And why? Because Mercedes is a fine, very fine girl, and fine girls never lack lovers. She particularly has them by dozens. Really? Answered Edmund, with a smile which had in it traces of slight uneasiness. Ah, yes, continued Caderousse, and capital offers too. But you know you will be captain, and who could refuse you then? Meaning to say, replied Dantes with a smile which but ill concealed his trouble, that if I were not the captain, said Caderousse, shaking his head. Come, said the sailor. I have a better opinion than you of women in general, and of Mercedes in particular, and I am certain that, captain or not, she will always be useful to me. So much the better, so much the better, said Caderousse. When one is going to be married, there is nothing like implicit confidence. But never mind that, my boy. Just go and announce your arrival, and let her know all your hopes and prospects. I will go directly, said Edmund, was Edmund's reply. Embracing his father and saluting Caderousse, he left the apartment. Caderousse lingered for a moment, then taking leave of old Dantes, he went downstairs to rejoin Danglars, who awaited him at the corner of the Rue Senac. Well, said Danglars, did you see him? I have just left him, answered Caderousse. Did he allude to his hope of being captain? He spoke of it as a thing already decided. Patience, said Danglars. He is in too much hurry, it appears to me. Why, it seems Monsieur Morel has promised him the thing, so that he is quite elated about it. That is to say, he is actually insolent on the matter, has already offered me his patronage, as if he were a grand personage, and offered me a loan of money, as though he were a banker. Which you refused? Most assuredly, though I might easily have accepted, for it was I who put into his hands the first silver he ever earned. But now Monsieur Dantes has no longer any occasion for assistance. He is about to become a captain. Pooh, said Danglars. He is not one yet. Ma foi, and it will be as well he never should be, answered Caderousse. For if he should be, there would be really no speaking to him. If we choose, replied Danglars, he will remain what he is, and perhaps become even less than he is. What do you mean? Nothing. I was speaking to myself. And is he still in love with the Catalan girl? Over head and ears. But unless I am much mistaken, there will be a storm in that matter. Explain yourself? Why should I? It is more important than you think, perhaps. You do not like Danglars? Or you do not like Dantes? I never like upstarts. Then tell me all you know relative to the Catalan girl. I know nothing for certain, only I have seen things which lead me to believe, as I told you, that the future captain will find some annoyance in the environ of the Vieille Infirmerie. What do you mean? Come tell me. Well, every time I have seen Mercedes come into the city, she has been accompanied by a tall, strapping, black-eyed Catalan with a red complexion, brown skin, and fierce air, whom she calls cousin. Really? And you think this cousin pays her attentions? I only suppose so. What else can a strapping lad of 21 mean with a fine wench of 17? And you say Dantes has gone to the Catalans? He went before I came down. Let us go the same way. We will stop at La Réserve, and we can get a glass of La Malade while we wait for news. Come along, said Caderousse, but mind you pay the shot. Certainly, replied Danglars, and going quickly to the spot alluded to, they called for a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. Père Pamphile had seen Dantes pass not 10 minutes before, so assured that he was in the Catalan, They sat down under the budding foliage of the planes and sycamores, in the branches of which the birds were joyously singing on a lovely day in early spring. And that concludes chapters 1 and 2 of The Count of Monte Cristo. Thank you again for joining me today. We have a long way to go, and it's going to be wonderful. I mean, every step of the way it's going to be great. So thank you for joining me. Tomorrow we'll read some more from The Count of Monte Cristo. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope it's filled with tea, happiness, and lots of great books. See you tomorrow. Bye. Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Christina Wainwright, the manager at the Pacific Beach Library. We are on day 2 of our read aloud together of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas as part of our program Tea with the Count of Monte Cristo. We are just at the start of our story. Yesterday was our first day reading from this book together, so there's not a lot to summarize, but we'll go ahead and start with that because I set my tea to steeping a little late. Hi Michelle, good to see you. So yeah, my tea is still steeping, so I'm going to give it a little longer to get a bit more color to it. This is the blood orange loose leaf tea. Delicious. But since we have a little bit of time to let that steep, I'm going to start with the summary of the book of what we read yesterday. Oh, actually, before we do that, though, let me mention, I've decided to switch over which edition of the book I'm going to be reading, and the reason to do it is because the book was originally published, as I mentioned, as a serial, so it came out between 1844 to 1846, and even though you would think they would be out of copyright, having been published quite some time ago, the book, a lot of the printed editions actually are still copyrighted because they're copyrighting the translation of the book. And so, even though the book that I had been planning on using was based on a translation from 1847, I think it was, because the translation had a couple tiny little typographical changes to it, this version is actually still protected under copyright. So I'm going to keep this book with me to refer back to and to show you, to illustrate the cover as we do our discussions, but the actual reading I'm going to be doing is from the edition that's listed on Project Gutenberg. And so if you actually go to our group, you'll see I've posted today some illustrations from the Project Gutenberg edition of Count of Monte Cristo. And it's actually a fun one. It has a whole bunch of illustrations. And so I'll just post those after each chapter when there are illustrations available. And so I'll be reading along on my computer screen instead of from the printed book this time. If you do choose to read along, just go to Project Gutenberg. All of the books listed on that site are free because they are older editions and so they're out of copyright. And so again, if you do prefer to read along with it, that would be the edition to read with because especially with all the various translations, there's a lot of differences. And in fact, even in this, just going from the chapter names between this printed edition and the one that I'll be using from now on through Project Gutenberg, there's even a few differences in translation for the chapter names. So again, there's a lot of little differences like that from the book. So again, if you choose to read along, Project Gutenberg is the way to go from now on. Alright, so now my tea has had a chance to steep. We'll go ahead and push down the press on the French press and go ahead and pour that out. As I mentioned, it's a blood orange loose leaf tea that I'm enjoying today. If you're having some tea and you'd like to share, please comment and let us know what you're enjoying today. It smells so good. Just has a really nice citrusy smell to it. Ooh, my glasses got a little foggy, sorry. The tea is really hot. Really, really good. Alright, so let's see. Yesterday we just read 2 chapters of the Count of Monte Cristo. In chapter 1, we met Edmond Dantes. He is a young sailor on a ship that has come back into its home port of Marseille, and it is 1815. When he gets back, we find out that the previous captain of the ship passed away, and right before he passed away, he asked Edmund to go visit the Isle of Elba to deliver something. When he went there, he met up with Napoleon, the emperor who has, been exiled out to Elba, or the former emperor, excuse me. There's also a gentleman who works on the ship, whose name is Danglars, and I think that's how we're going to pronounce it, D-A-N-G-L-A-R-S, Danglars. I don't think we pronounce it. And so Danglars is the second in command on the ship, and he is not friends with Edmond Dantes. And so he tries to, when the owner of the ship, Monsieur Morel, comes on board, he tries to sow a little bit of enmity between the two. He tries to cast suspicion on Edmund's behavior because in the absence of the captain, he has sort of assumed command of the ship. And Danglars does not want Edmond Dantes to have this promotion to becoming captain of the ship. So then, Mr. Morel, though, likes Edmond Dantes very much. He's a nice, kind, capable young man. And so Mr. Morel invites him to dinner, and Edmond says, "No, I would love to see you. It's an honor, but I really want to go visit my elderly father, whom I haven't seen while I've been gone these 3 months. And then afterwards, I'd like to visit my fiancée, Mercedes." And Mr. Morel is like, fine, I understand. You go be a good son and, go do what you need to do. So he goes to visit his father, and he finds that his poor father is very proud, as he's known, and his father has actually been on the verge of starving almost because Edmund had left him with some money, but his father had had to spend a good chunk of it to pay a debt that Edmund had forgotten he had left. And so the father had very little money to spend on groceries while Edmund was gone. Also, the gentleman to whom he had owed the debt was a neighbor named Monsieur Caderousse, and Mr. Caderousse comes by, and he is friendly on the surface with Edmund and his father. However, it comes out afterwards that he is not really that friendly with them. And in fact, Caderousse tries to lay suspicion that Mercedes, Edmund's fiancée, that she might be cheating on him, that there's something going on, that she's with this other gentleman all the time whom she says is a family member, whom she calls cousin, but it's kind of suspicious looking. And so Caderousse is kind of sowing a little bit of doubt also, trying to cause problems with Edmund. We also find out too, after Edmund leaves his father to go visit with Mercedes, that Caderousse is friends with Danglars, and the two of them are sitting down to talk, and they're saying, they both agree they've never really liked Edmond Dantes, and he doesn't deserve the good fortune he has. So that's where we left off with Chapter 2 of The Count of Monte Cristo. I'm going to continue now reading from the Project Gutenberg digital edition. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue with our story. Chapter 3, The Catalans. Beyond a bare, weather-worn wall, about 100 paces from the spot where the two friends sat looking and listening as they drank their wine, was the village of the Catalans. Long ago, this mysterious colony quitted Spain and settled on the tongue of land on which it is to this day. Whence it came, no one knew, and it spoke an unknown tongue. One of its chiefs, who understood Provençal, begged the commune of Marseille to give them this fair and barren promontory, where, like the sailors of old, they had run their boats ashore. The request was granted, and 3 months afterwards, around the 12 or 15 small vessels which had brought these gypsies of the sea, a small village sprang up. This village, constructed in a singular and picturesque manner, half Moorish, half Spanish, still remains, and is inhabited by descendants of the first comers, who speak the language of their fathers. For 3 or 4 centuries they have remained upon the small promontory, on which they have settled like a flight of seabirds, without mixing with the Marseillaise population, original customs and the customs of the mother country, as they have preserved its language. Our readers will follow us along the only street of this little village, and enter with us one of the houses, which is sunburned to the beautiful dead leaf color peculiar to the buildings of the country, and within coated with whitewash, like a Spanish posada. A young and beautiful girl, with hair as black as jet, her eyes as velvety as the gazelle's, was leaning with her back against the wainscot, rubbing in her slender, delicately molded fingers a brush of heath blossoms, the flowers of which she was picking off and strewing on the floor. Her arms, bare to the elbow, brown and modeled after those of the Arlesian Venus, moved with a kind of restless impatience, and she tapped the earth with her arched and supple foot, so as to display the pure and full shape of her well-turned leg, in its red cotton, gray and blue, cloth stocking. At 3 paces from her, seated in a chair which he balanced on 2 legs, leaning his elbow on an old worm-eaten table, was a tall young man of 20 or 22, who was looking at her with an air in which vexation and uneasiness were mingled. He questioned her with his eyes, but the firm and steady gaze of the young girl controlled his look. "You see, Mercedes," said the young man, "here is Easter come round again. Tell me, is this the moment for a wedding?" "I have answered you 100 times, Fernand. And really, you must be very stupid to ask me again. Well, repeat it. Repeat it, I beg of you, that I may at last believe it. Tell me for the 100th time that you refuse my love, which had your mother's sanction. Make me understand once and for all that you are trifling with my happiness, that my life or death are nothing to you. Ah, to have dreamed for 10 years of being your husband, Mercedes, and to lose that hope which was the only stay of my existence. At least it was not I who ever encouraged you in that hope, Fernand, replied Mercedes. You cannot reproach me with the slightest coquetry. I have always said to you, I love you as a brother, but do not ask from me more than sisterly affection, for my heart is another's. Is not this true, Fernand? Yes, it is very true, Mercedes, replied the young man. Yes, you have been cruelly frank with me, but do you forget that it is among the Catalans a sacred law to intermarry? You mistake, Fernand. It is not a law, but merely a custom, and I pray of you, do not cite this custom in your favor. You are included in the conscription, Fernand, and are only at liberty on sufferance, liable at any moment to be called upon to take up arms. Once a soldier, what would you do with me, a poor orphan, forlorn, without fortune, with nothing but half-ruined hut and a few ragged nets, the miserable inheritance left by my father to my mother, and by my mother to me? She has been dead a year, and you know, Fernand, I have subsisted almost entirely on public charity. Sometimes you pretend I am useful to you, and that is an excuse to share with me the produce of your fishing, and I accept it, Fernand, because you are the son of my father's brother, because we were brought up together, and still more because it would give you so much pain if I refused. But I feel very deeply that this fish which I go and sell, and with the produce of which I buy the flax I spin, I feel very keenly, Fernand, that this is charity. And if it were, Mercedes, poor and lone as you are, you suit me as well as the daughter of the first ship owner or the richest banker of Marseille. What do such as we desire but a good wife and careful housekeeper? And where can I look for these better than in you? Fernand, answered Mercedes, shaking her head. A woman becomes a bad manager, and who shall say she will remain an honest woman when she loves another man better than her husband? Rest content with my friendship, for I say once more, that is all I can promise, and I will promise no more than I can bestow. I understand, replied Fernand. You can endure your own wretchedness patiently, but you are afraid to share mine. Well, Mercedes, beloved by you, I would tempt fortune. You would bring me good luck, and I should become rich. I could extend my occupation as a fisherman, might get a place as clerk in a warehouse, and become in time a dealer myself. Do no such thing, Fernand. You are a soldier, and if you remain in Catalan, it is because there is no war. So remain a fisherman, and contented with my friendship, as I cannot do more. Well, I will do better, Mercedes. I will be a sailor. Instead of the costume of our soldiers, which you despise, I will wear a varnished hat, a striped shirt, and a blue jacket with an anchor on the buttons. Would not that dress please you? What do you mean? Asked Mercedes with an angry glance. What do you mean? I do not understand you. I mean, Mercedes, that you are thus harsh and cruel with me because you are expecting someone who is thus attired, and perhaps he whom you await is inconstant, or if he is not, the sea is so to him. Fernand, cried Mercedes, I believed you were good-hearted, and I was mistaken. Fernand, you are wicked to call to your aid jealousy and the anger of God. Yes, I will not deny it. I do await, and I do love him of whom you speak. And if he does not return, instead of accusing him of the inconstancy which you insinuate, I will tell you that he died loving me, and me only. The young girl made a gesture of rage. I understand you, Fernand. You would be revenged on him because I do not love you. You would cross your Catalan knife with his dirt. What end would that answer? To lose you because I do not love you. To lose you, my friendship, if you were conquered, and see that friendship changed into hate if you were victor. Believe me, to seek a quarrel with a man is a bad method of pleasing the woman who loves that man. No, Fernand, you will not thus give way to evil thoughts. Unable to have me for your wife, you will content yourself with having me for your friend and sister. And besides, she added, her eyes troubled and moistened with tears, wait, Fernand. You said just now that he was treacherous, and he has been gone 4 months. And during these 4 months, there have been some terrible storms. Fernand made no reply, nor would he attempt to check the tears which flowed down the cheeks of Mercedes, although for each of these tears he would have shed his heart's blood, but these tears flowed for another. He arose, paced a while up and down the hut, and then, suddenly stopping before Mercedes, with his eyes glowing and his hands clenched, said, "Say, Mercedes," he said, "once for all, is this your final determination?" "I love Edmond Dantes," the young girl calmly replied, "and none but Edmond shall ever be my husband." "And you will always love him?" "As long as I live." Fernand let fall his head like a defeated man, heaved a sigh that was like a groan, and then suddenly looking her full in the face, with clenched teeth and expanded nostrils, said, "But if he is dead, I shall die too. If he has forgotten you." "Mercedes!" called a joyous voice from without. "Mercedes!" "Ah!" exclaimed the young girl, blushing with delight and fairly leaping in excess of love. "You see, he has not forgotten me, for here he is!" And rushing towards the door, she opened it, saying, "Here, Edmond, here I am." Fernand, pale and trembling, drew back, like a traveler at the sight of a serpent, and fell into a chair beside him. Edmond and Mercedes were clasped in each other's arms. The burning Marseille sun, which shot into the room through the open door, covered them with a flood of light. At first, they saw nothing around them. Their intense happiness isolated them from all the rest of the world, and they only spoke in broken words, which are the tokens of a joy so extreme that they seem rather the expression of sorrow. Suddenly, Edmund saw the gloomy, pale, and threatening countenance of Fernand, as it was defined in the shadow. By a movement for which he could scarcely account to himself, the young Catalan placed his hand on the knife at his belt. "Your pardon," said Dantes, frowning in his turn. "I did not perceive that there were 3 of us." Then turning to Mercedes, he inquired, "Who is this gentleman?" "One who will be your best friend, Dantes, for he is my friend, my cousin, my brother. It is Fernand, the man whom, after you, Edmond, I love the best in the world. Do you not remember him?" "Yes," said Dantes, and without relinquishing Mercedes' hand, clasped in one of his own, he extended the other to the Catalan with a cordial air. But Fernand, instead of responding to this amiable gesture, remained mute and trembling. Edmond then cast his eyes scrutinizingly at the agitated and embarrassed Mercedes, and then again on the gloomy and menacing Fernand. This look told him all, and his anger waxed hot. "I did not know, when I came with such haste to you, that I was to meet an enemy here." "An enemy?" cried Mercedes with an angry look at her cousin. "An enemy in my house, do you say, Edmond? If I believed that, I would place my arm under yours and go with you to Marseille, leaving the house to return to it no more. Fernand's eye darted lightning. "And should any misfortune occur to you, dear Edmond," she continued with the same calmness which proved to Fernand that the young girl had read the very innermost depths of his sinister thought, "if misfortune should occur to you, I would ascend the highest point of the Cape de Morvieux and cast myself headlong from it." Fernand became deadly pale. "But you are deceived, Edmond," she continued. "You have no enemy here. There is no one but Fernand, my brother, who will grasp your hand as a devoted friend." And at these words, the young girl fixed her imperious look on the Catalan, who, as if fascinated by it, came slowly towards Edmond and offered him his hand. His hatred, like a powerless though furious wave, was broken against the strong ascendancy which Mercedes exercised over him. Scarcely, however, had he touched Edmund's hand when he felt he had done all he could do, and rushed hastily out of the house. "Oh," he exclaimed, running furiously and tearing his hair. "Oh, who will deliver me from this man? Wretched, wretched that I am." "Hello, Catalan! Hello, Fernand! Where are you running to?" exclaimed the voice. The young man stopped suddenly, looked around him, and perceived Caderousse sitting at table with Danglars under an arbor. "Well," said Caderousse, "why don't you come? Are you really in such a hurry that you have no time to pass the time of day with your friends? Particularly when they have still a full bottle before them," added Danglars. Fernand looked at them both with a stupefied air, but did not say a word. "He seems besotted," said Danglars, pushing Caderousse with his knee. "Are we mistaken? And is Dantes triumphant in spite of all we have believed?" "Why, we must inquire into that," was Caderousse's reply, and turning towards the young man said, "Well, Catalan, can't you make up your mind?" Fernand wiped away the perspiration steaming from his brow, and slowly entering into the arbor, whose shade seemed to restore somewhat of calmness to his senses, and whose coolness somewhat of refreshment to his exhausted body. "Good day," said he. "You called me, didn't you?" And he fell, rather than sat down, on one of the seats which surrounded the table. "I called you because you were running like a madman, and I was afraid you would throw yourself into the sea," said Caderousse, laughing. "Why, when a man has friends, they are not only to offer him a glass of wine, but moreover to prevent his swallowing 3 or 4 pints of water unnecessarily." Fernand gave a groan which resembled a sob, and dropped his head into his hands, his elbows leaning on the table. "Well, Fernand, I must say," said Caderousse, beginning the conversation, with that brutality of the common people in which curiosity destroys all diplomacy, "you look uncommonly like a rejected lover," and he burst into a forced laugh. "Bah," said Danglars, "a lad of his make was not born to be unhappy in love. You are laughing at him, Caderousse." "No," he replied, "only hark how he sighs. Come, come, Fernand," said Caderousse, "hold up your head and answer us. It's not polite not to reply to friends who ask news of your health." "My health is well enough," said Fernand, clenching his hands without raising his head. "Ah, you see, Danglars," said Caderousse, winking at his friend, "this is how it is. Fernand, whom you see here, is a good and brave Catalan, one of the best fishermen of Marseille, and he is in love with a very fine girl named Mercedes. But here, unfortunately, the fine girl is in love with the mate of the Pharaon, and as the Pharaon arrived today, why, you understand?" "No, I do not understand," said Danglars. "Poor Fernand has been dismissed," continued Caderousse. "Well, and what then?" said Fernand, lifting up his head and looking at Caderousse like a man who looks for someone on whom to vent his anger. "Mercedes is not accountable to any person, is she? Is she not free to love whomsoever she will?" "Oh, if you take it in that sense," said Caderousse, "it is another thing. But I thought you were a Catalan, and they told me the Catalans were not men to allow themselves to be supplanted by a rival. It was even told me that Fernand, especially, is terrible in his vengeance." Fernand smiled piteously. "A lover is never terrible," he said. "Poor fellow," remarked Danglars, affecting to pity the young man from the bottom of his heart. "Why, you see, he did not expect to see Dantes return so suddenly. He thought he was dead, perhaps, or perchance faithless. These things always come on us more severely when they come suddenly." "Ah, ma foi, under any circumstances," said Caderousse, who drank as he spoke and on whom the fumes of the wine began to take effect. "Under any circumstances, Fernand is not the only person put out by the fortunate arrival of Dantes. Is he, Danglars?" "No, you are right, and I should say that would bring him ill luck." "Well, never mind," answered Caderousse, pouring out a glass of wine for Fernand and filling his own for the 8th or 9th time, while Danglars had merely sipped his. Never mind. In the meantime, he marries Mercedes, the lovely Mercedes. At least he returns to do that. During this time, Danglars fixed his piercing gaze on the young man, on whose heart Caderousse's words fell like molten lead. "And when is the wedding to be?" he asked. "Oh, it is not yet fixed," murmured Fernand. "No, but it will be," said Caderousse, "as surely as Dantès will be captain of the Pharaon, eh, Danglars?" Danglars shuddered at this unexpected attack, and turned to Caderousse, whose countenance he scrutinized, to try and detect whether the blow was premeditated. But he read nothing but envy in a countenance already rendered brutal and stupid by drunkenness. "Well," said he, filling the glasses, "let us drink to Captain Edmond Dantès, husband of the beautiful Cataline." Caderousse raised his glass to his mouth with an unsteady hand and swallowed the contents at a gulp. Fernand dashed his on the ground. "Eh, stammered Caderousse. "What do I see down there by the wall, in the direction of the Catalan? Look, Fernand, your eyes are better than mine. I believe I see double. You know wine is a deceiver, but I should say it was two lovers walking side by side and hand in hand. Heaven forgive me, they do not know that we can see them, and they are actually embracing." Danglars did not lose one pang that Fernand endured. "Do you know them, Fernand?" he said. "Yes," was the reply in a low voice. "It is Edmond and Mercedes." "Ah, see there now," said Caderousse, "and I did not recognize them. Hello, Dantès. Hello, lovely damsel. Come this way, and let us know when the wedding is to be, for Fernand here is so obstinate he will not tell us." "Hold your tongue, will you?" said Danglars, pretending to restrain Caderousse, who, with the tenacity of drunkards, leaned out of the ark. "Try to stand upright, and let the lovers make love without interruption. See, look at Fernand and follow his example. He is well behaved." Fernand, probably excited beyond bearing, pricked by Danglars as the bull is by the bandoleros, was about to rush out, for he had risen from his seat and seemed to be collecting himself to dash headlong upon his rival, when Mercedes, smiling and graceful, lifted up her lovely head and looked at them with her clear and bright eyes. At this, Fernand recollected her threat of dying if Edmond died, and dropped again heavily on his feet. Danglars looked at the two men, one after the other, the one brutalized by liquor, the other overwhelmed with love. "I shall get nothing from these fools," he muttered, "and I am very much afraid of being here between a drunkard and a coward. Here's an envious fellow making himself boozy on wine when he ought to be nursing his wrath. And here is a fool who sees the woman he loves stolen from under his nose and takes on like a big baby. Yet this Catalan has eyes that glisten like those of the vengeful Spaniards, Sicilians, and Calabrians. And the other has fists big enough to crush an ox at one blow. Unquestionably, Edmund's star is in the ascendant, and he will marry the splendid girl. He will be captain too, and laugh at us all. Unless," a sinister smile passed over Danglars' lips, "unless I take a hand in the affair," he added. "Hello!" continued Caderousse, half rising, and with his fist on the table. "Hello, Edmond! Do you not see your friends, or are you too proud to speak to them?" "No, my dear fellow," replied Dantès. "I am not proud, but I am happy, and happiness blinds, I think, more than pride." "Ah, very well, that's an explanation," said Caderousse. "How do you do, Madame Dantès?" Mercedes curtsied gravely, and said, "That is not my name, and in my country it bodes ill fortune, they say, to call a young girl by the name of her betrothed before he becomes her husband. So call me Mercedes, if you please." "We must excuse our worthy neighbor Caderousse," said Dantès. "He is so easily mistaken." "So then, the wedding is to take place immediately, Monsieur Dantès?" said Danglars, bowing to the young couple. "As soon as possible, Monsieur Danglars. Today, all preliminaries will be arranged at my father's, and tomorrow, or next day at latest, the wedding festival here at La Réserve. My friends will be there, I hope. That is to say, you are invited, Monsieur Danglars, and you, Caderousse." And Fernand, said Caderousse with a chuckle. Fernand, too, is invited. My wife's brother is my brother, said Edmund, and we, Mercedes and I, should be very sorry if he were absent at such a time. Fernand opened his mouth to reply, but his voice died on his lips, and he could not utter a word. Today the preliminaries, tomorrow or next day the ceremony. You are in a hurry, Captain. Danglars, said Edmund, smiling, I will say to you as Mercedes said just now to Caderousse, do not give me a title which does not belong to me. That may bring me bad luck. Your pardon, replied Danglars. I merely said you seemed in a hurry, and we have lots of time. The pharaoh cannot be
In a world where chaos reigns and connections seem fleeting,
We are always afraid to be happy, Mr. Danglars. But we're successful.
one visionary endeavor seeks to bring us all together, then theater live after dark. Harnessing the transformative power of artificial intelligence, the timeless charm of radio theater.
Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild and Spider-Man 1977. It's gonna be live. So the plan is Spider-Man 1977, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom begin by simply listening, slow down, and see just how peaceful today can be. Now we go over here and we go...
This is the new Google Pixel Fold, the only foldable phone engineered by Google. It's just as amazing folded as it is unfolded.
I only hesitate to bring it to Mrs. Ellis. It's not one of a kind.
I told you I'm not interested in rep like this, however cleverly they're done.
Good Lord, it's not a fishing decider. What I meant was that there's a companion deed to this one which is owned by the royal family.
What country?
Why, of England, of course.
Of course. Lily! Maureen? What else have you to show me today?
There's only one of these in the entire world decider. Interestingly enough, commissioned by the Empress Dowager in 1864, and then later presented to the King of Portugal in 1866.
Minlo Chan has just left for New York. New York? Are you positive? I'm positive. My man just saw him get on the plane. How could they let him leave the mainland with those charges against him? Supposedly, there's a witness in New York that can prove that Min is innocent. He's found innocent by the People's Court. And he'll award the contract for construction of the steel mill in Shanghai to Canadians. However, he's found guilty. Or if he never leaves New York, then Thyssen will take over, and my company is certain to get that contract. It's a $1 billion contract, Mr. Evans. As much as I'm opposed to violence, Minlo Chan must die in New York. I just can't get over it. What is that, Jonah? Well, we're the same age, but who would ever guess that? Nobody, that's who. You look very distinguished, my friend. How? Distinguished, yes. But I can't get over how much younger you look. We went to college together. Did he ever tell you that?
Yeah?
I got better grades than he did. Dated prettier girls than he did. Uh-huh. That's not quite true. Well, some of the time. I was even voted by my clubs the man most likely to succeed. And you have. Impressive. Oh, yeah, I've got a few newspapers. But you're not only younger looking than I am, you're the Minister of Industrial Development for China. And I'm still just a newspaper man. You are too modest, Jonah.
Well, how was lunch? Very nice.
Afternoon paper out there? Good. Would you mind showing Emily around the plant while Min and I have a chat?
Oh, the glasses. I'll just get someone to come to the phone, and then I will give you the VIP tour. You're very kind.
Your article is most flattering. My pleasure. Sit down, sit down. Well, there are a million things that I'd like to ask about you. I hardly know where to begin.
I'll tell you anything you want to know. But first, may I impose on our friendship?
Anything you want, just ask.
Large faith, and it's for me, Christian.
Minute, I've got no around. That'd be quite a grump. And if there's anything I lose patience with, it's beating around the bush.
Back in 1946, before I came to this country, I was an agent for the Chinese army.
You were a spy?
One day, when we were in the region north of India, this pack came with the news that the U.S. Marine Station in Qingdao would like to visit. He was a school teacher with a good reputation, so I met with the Marines, 3 of them. They wanted to know the size of the army that was marching on the sea, the number of tanks and armed people, for which to pay $10,000.
An offer that I presume you refused.
Of course. And that's a period of 2 months ago. Joe, can you help me find those 3 Marines?
Wow, 1906, huh? That's a long time ago. Contact some of my friends at the State Department.
No, your government must not know about it.
A minute, I checked.
There are people in your government who would like to see me convicted of the charges that will be brought against me. I will be charged with having sought secret information of the Chinese also be charged with having robbed and killed the Chinese school teacher that brought us together. If you are thinking that you don't want to be involved, I understand.
Min, you were always very good at calculus, college, and chemistry, physics. As I recall, you were never very good at reading minds. I know you. I know you're not a thief. I know you're not a murderer. Of course I'll stop you if I can.
Thank you, Joe.
How are finding these three ex-Marines out?
They know that I'm innocent. They're the only ones who give testimony to the Court of Inquiry in China.
All I've got to do is locate three ex-Marines without involving the State Department. I've got it. Peter Parker did a feature story about a Marine officer a few weeks ago. Maybe he's got it in. Look at Peter Parker.
Peter, how are you? Great. Listen, I need your help, unofficial.
Okay.
Now, could save a man's career, maybe even his life. And the name, whereabouts of those three people. No, I know that they were all in North China. They were in Qingdao, China, September of 1940. Their mission was by secret military information about Mao's army.
How about tomorrow?
Oh, it's also very important inquiry not to trace back to my newspaper or anyone on it.
Peter.
Major, please, trust me.
Okay. You were straight when you wrote that article.
So you'll call me tomorrow with their names, last known verb?
Right. Qingdao, China, September 1940.
Who else is in the house with them?
Housekeeper and a cook.
Suffering from jet lag.
You needed steam bath. Dressing. Works for me every time.
What I need is some sleep. You guys figure out some genius plan to knock off the old guy, will you? I want to take a nap.
Okay, the first name on our list, Jonathan.
I appreciate your help very much.
No, I didn't do much. My friend is a Marine Corps. Now, listen, I want you to understand that you have nothing at all on me. You don't.
It seems strange being here in this mall, as you call it. Trying to find three men. For all I know, may be dead. inside the building.
A little break.
Well, there's nothing more we can do here. Got the gun, we got the man. The only thing we're missing is the motive. Are you, absolutely certain that nothing you can tell me, Mr. Mink?
Begin by simply listening. Slow down. See just how peaceful they can be. Thanks so much for swinging by. I have been your host, your obedient servant, Sebastian St. Smalls. Catch you guys on the flip side.
Enjoy endless possibilities when you Ritz together.
Hey, so what if we have questions about our policy?
And what if it's late at night?
And what if someone still calls us mom for everything?
At State Farm, we're there for your what ifs.
Hey, Mom.
Who?
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.